Welcome and thank you for joining our disaster event data request reporting webinar. We will review the reporting process and the template, and we'll also do a live demonstration populating data into the template. And we'll finish the webinar by taking and answering any questions that you may have. Please note the webinar is being recorded, as you just heard, and it also will be posted on our website for public use. So given the number of participants and the webinar format, we've muted everyone. And we do ask, though, that you do please put your questions in the chat feature, which will be kept private and only visible to the panelists. So we are also taking roll call. So if you would please drop in your name, company name, and email into the chat. Great. Okay, we are now recording. Next slide, please. I am joined this morning by our network resiliency team. Anil Balivada is the program and project supervisor. We have Vijay Sinha, senior telecom engineer, and Jeffrey Choi, who's the lead senior telecom engineer on this initiative. Jeffrey's going to be presenting a little bit later and going through the template with us. And I would also like to acknowledge and thank our IT team who's supporting us with this webinar today. Next slide, please. So we'll be spending the next hour together, and I will provide you with a brief overview of the rulemaking background, an overview of the data request process, and then Jeffrey, as I mentioned earlier, will be doing a live demonstration using the template. We are definitely going to save some time for your questions, and we'll address them at the end. And again, please use the chat feature, making sure that we have your email address in the event there's any follow-up to your questions or in case we don't get to them all, but we certainly hope to. Next slide, please. The ongoing disaster event data request reporting requirement is pursuant to Rulemaking 18-03-011 and other statutory requirements such as SB 341. This rulemaking established that access to essential utility services is critical. Providers must maintain resilient networks so that their customers will have access to the internet, 211, and 911 in the event of a disaster and/or PSPS event. Next slide, please. This is the data reporting process from a super high level. The CPUC will initiate the reporting. The service provider will submit daily reports by 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time using the same file each day that has been updated with information from the previous 24 hours. And then finally, it is the CPUC who will notify the service provider when to stop reporting. Next slide, please. And so what do you need to know? You need to know that the template can be downloaded from our website. I've also put the link in the chat for you. The link's on the bottom of this slide as well. And the template is going to look familiar as it's the template that you've been using. But we have made some clarifications to the language to make it more clear for you, the user. The template is a spreadsheet with 2 tabs. And the first tab has instructions, and the second is the template for your data input. And you'll be sending the spreadsheet via email to the Service Resiliency email inbox on a daily basis until the CPUC has determined that the event is over and prompts you to send in your final report. Next slide, please. So when will the CPUC prompt you to start your daily reporting? You will be prompted to use the template for all, this same template, to be clear, for all disaster events, such as a PSPS event triggered by investor-owned utilities, or events such as wildfire, earthquakes, floods, etc. The template has been designed to capture information about the facilities impacted and the customers impacted. And again, we'll go through that together here in a minute. This template can also be used for more than one event. Should there be events happening concurrently, you would still use the same file for all applicable events and updating it daily until we ask for your final report. So at this time, I would like to invite Jeffrey to share his screen. And while Jeffrey brings up his screen, what we're going to do now is we're going to review the template together. Again, the first tab is instructions, which I will review with you. And the second tab is where you will do your data entry, and Jeffrey's going to actually walk you through a few data entry samples live with us. Please keep in mind that this is version 2. So if you have previous copies, want to make sure that you're using version 2 going forward. And just keeping in mind that this is a familiar template, we've just made some clarifications for you. So if you look down the bottom left of Jeffrey's screen, you're going to see 2 tabs. We are on the instructions tab. That one's colored red. And eventually we will switch to the green tab where Jeffrey will demonstrate data input. That's where you're actually going to do your inputs and your updates to the same file on a daily basis. I'm going to quickly cover the instructions with you so you can see there's 1 through 13. The instructions are roughly divided into 3 categories: reporting, template use, and then some additional instructions and tips on how to actually input your data. So I'm going to go through them pretty quickly in more of a summary format, but I do ask that you please read them on your own as well. Okay, the first section is the reporting section, instructions 1 through 4, at the request of the CPUC, and we will notify our affected service provider contacts that we have by email. So please make sure all your contacts are always kept updated. And you, the service provider, will immediately start your daily reporting. You do that by 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time each day until the CPUC directs you to stop. And you're going to do that via the Service Resiliency email inbox. Pretty sure you all have that email, but just in case, it is in the chat. It's really, really important that you submit the same file each day. So in our industry, we call that updating trackers, right? So you're going to update the same file with new information from the last 24 hours. And so on. So please do not use a new file or a different file. Please use the same file, update it, and send it via email to the Service Resiliency inbox by 3 o'clock each day. Just another point here that this section of instructions makes is you should never be removing facilities. If there's a resolution to what's happening with that facility, keep it on there and just indicate that. We should only see facilities added throughout the daily reporting process. Okay, that next section there is template use, instructions 5 through 10. It's just reminding you to please do not change the template in any way. If you have questions or you're not sure how to answer something, please reach out to us. And you can mark your subject line urgent if we are in the middle of a daily reporting event, and we will get back to you. Please leave the template as is, just noting that we are aggregating data on our side on a daily basis, and Jeffrey is doing that. If it does come back and it's unfamiliar or we're not able to aggregate the data easily on our side because changes have been made to the template, we're going to have to send it back to you and ask that you resubmit. So 1 file per day, and also can be used for more than 1 event. And Jeffrey's going to show you how to do that shortly. This section also instructs you to use every row within the template to represent a single facility. 1 row per facility, and you'll update that on a daily basis. So if you have 6 facilities impacted, we should see 6 rows. If you have 100 facilities impacted, we should see 100 rows, and so on. This is one change. We're asking for there to be no blanks in any of the fields that you submit. TBDs, or to be determined, if you just don't know, are more than okay. That's absolutely acceptable until you submit your final report. Then we shouldn't see any TBDs. We can certainly see NAs, and that's fine, not a problem. And there has been confusion. I think I've mentioned this many times, but it is the CPUC who will tell you when to send your final report. Okay, that third section there, additional instructions for service provider, 11 through 13. It just reminds you that we have, well, Jeffrey, actually, give the credit to Jeffrey, has put in some formulas, some drop-down menus. And when they're there, please use them and don't make any changes to the template. We also recognize that you may have team members in other time zones that are filling out the report, so please use military time, and there are samples there in the table. This section of the instructions also just calls out that there is a table. So for every column header on the second tab, if you're not sure what we're asking for, you can come back to this table where you're going to find a description of the information requested, the type of data that we're asking for, and then an example. Jeffrey, if you would please, let's move to the data request template. Okay, this is the second tab. You can see it's green. This is where you're going to do your data entry. You can see on the top, we have a quick guide. We realize that sometimes people just want to jump in and get started, especially with such short timelines. This will, in the red font, remind you that there's a full tab of instructions and samples that you can refer to. And it reminds you that every day we consider those initial reports and however many days the event lasts, and then your final report is the very last one that comes in. The CPUC will be the one to tell you when you have submitted a final report, and we expect that every field will be populated and no TBDs. So at this time, I would like to hand it over to Jeffrey to go ahead and walk us through some samples, data entry.
Hey, Stephanie. Thank you for the heads up. And hi, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Choi from CPUC, working as a senior telecommunication engineer. I'm responsible for data event data request project and answering the questions you may have in the future. Now I'll walk through some sample data to make sure you fill everything in correctly. And if there is a wildfire declared as a state of emergency, and we decided to get information from the service providers about affected facility and affected customer and service. And if we send the data request today, you will need to fill in the template starting tomorrow, which is day 1 here. And on day 1, if you have 2 facilities affected by wildfire, you can enter the information like this. Actually, I paste the sample data here. So you can put the report date here, and then company name, and then disaster event type. It should be wildfire. And state of emergency, there's the drop-down menu. If there's a state emergency declared, yes or no, and you can put here. And then data event name would be like this. And from here to column N, maybe we will ask you impacted facility. So if you have the wireless cell site, you can click the wireless cell site as we have the drop down here, and then the facility affected is node, then you can click the node here. And then outage type, if you know you can put the like this, facility damage, and then power outage. And root cause, also you put the like this, as you know. Maybe if you don't know root cause yet, then maybe you can put the 2BD here. But maybe I assume you know the root cause. And then you can put the outage start date and time like this. and maybe put the address. If you don't know the address, just put the TBD. Yeah, and then the facility are in the tier 2 or tier 3 area, and there's the drop down. You can click the yes or no. And after that, from column P and to column U, we ask you to the number of potentially affected customer for each facility. This first facility is the wireless cell site, so maybe you should put the customer number affected here, and other field will be the NA. And for the second, maybe you can put the affected customer number here. Then maybe you think that there's another service customer affected here, but you don't know, then you can put the TBD here. And then there's another drop down, yes or no, to see the 911 service affected or not. So you can click. And after that, if you put any temporary restoration to the facility, then you can put the temporary service restoration here, and also put the facility that you use for temporary solution. And then put some explanation for method of temporary service restoration. And if you those are not applicable to the certain facility, just to put the NA here. And then for the permanent restoration, maybe you should put the TBD. And then for the loss report number, of course, you will issue the ticket to the NOS system. Then you will have the NOS number. Then you can put the here. And if you have any description, put the here. And if not, if applicable, NA. Or if you need to decide maybe later, then you can put the TBD here. And also, if you have the comment or not, put here and or put the NA. So after that, maybe you can send this data to us by 3 p.m. every day. And then that is all. Maybe you done the first 2 days the submission. And if we send another data request for the PSPS event, maybe tomorrow, which is the January 19th, while you are submitting the wildfire data, this one, and you can use this set template to update both wildfire and PSPS information, as Stephanie mentioned already. Here's the example. I just copy and paste it. So, of course, you put the report date here and the company, and at the disaster event type should be different. So you use the drop down to click the PSPS, and then statement emergency no. And we don't know disaster event name, the TBD here, and then type of facility. And also, if you know the address, you can put here. And then for the let and long, you can put the TBD here. And also, you can put the impacted, the customer number, and then the temporary solution you don't know, maybe you are not determined, and you can put the TBD and then TBD also. And then put the FSC FCC knows report number. And then if you don't know, just put the 2BD for description of outage event and the comment. So this is you can send this data to the to us for the day 2. But before sending this one, if you have a also if there are any update you didn't know about the 2 facilities that you reported on day 1, which means that these 2 rows, maybe you can fill them in, and then just change it from 2BD to the actual data, which means I show you. So you don't know this data, but you got to know on the second day, then you can the data. Actually, I prepared this one. Like this. And then, so okay, you know that the number of the impacted broadband customer, and you can put the 10. And then you can send this one for as a second day, the day 2 data. Okay. And on day 3, which is the 21st of January, if none of your facility are affected by PSPS or wildfire, simply send us this template along with any update you have for your previous data. For example, maybe you got to know the name of the disaster, like SCE, PSPS, 120, you can put here, and then if you got to know the latitude and longitude, then you can put here. I will put this one here, and then maybe if you restore this one permanently, then you can put here maybe 120 to 4, 2.4, and then okay, let's copy this one. And then this one should be the NA. And then maybe if you don't have any comment, you put here, and then you don't, maybe just put the NA here. And then send to us as a day 3 data. And on day 4, which is January 22nd, if one of your facilities affected by wildfire, you can update the data like this. And then let me yeah, like this. And then you can send, but before sending this one, please don't forget, oh, sorry. Please don't forget to update your previous data, which means maybe if you have any update in your previous data, maybe then you can update this. So maybe you got the permanent service restoration. On 4th day, you can put 22, 24, like this. And then sent to us. And you should keep sending this daily report until your facility and service are fully restored and all the information is filled in without any 2BD. Once that is done, we will tell you to stop sending daily report, and we will treat the last report as a final one. Then maybe you got the address, and then you install the permanently. And then there's no need NA. Then I don't see any 2BD here. Then after I check this report, and then I will email you stop sending the daily report. I will wrap up the walkthrough. If you have any question, feel free to drop question in the chat feature, chat box, and I will pass it over to Anil.
Hey, thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks to everyone who is attending this webinar. We appreciate for taking time out of your busy hour. And I just want to summarize what Jeffrey and Stephanie said. While filling this this template, we need to be very careful and also need to read all the instructions which is on the first tab, and make sure that follow the instruction carefully and provide your inputs, which is as required in the second tab, which is the data request template. And for, as Jeffrey mentioned, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 10, whatever the days you are triggered for the incident, need to be updated with no fields left blank, and need to be TBD or NA kind of thing if it is not known. And the final report should not have any TBDs. So so that is where something we are looking forward for more kind of like in a collaborative way, getting this report, so that we don't have to work to enforce too much on the reporting. And as Stephanie mentioned that, and even Jeffrey too, like if you have any questions, don't wait for the last minute, and you can shoot the question immediately over the email, serviceresiliency@cpuc.ca.gov, and that could be the point where one of us can pick that question, and we can definitely respond back to you guys. And if you don't hear, don't hesitate to give us a call. You should have our numbers, and we can definitely help you to walk through if there is anything, if you need to know about the template. So that said, I think I would hand over back to Stephanie if we have any questions on the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Anil. We certainly do. We have quite a few. I've consolidated a couple that I think that I can answer. So the first one is, do we start with a fresh, empty report each day, or amend initial report with each new day's info? At the end of the day, to answer that question, it's going to be the same information. We just want one file that has been updated each day. So whatever is easier for you. If you just want to start fresh and take yesterday's data and add today's, that's fine. Or if you want to use yesterday's file and update it, that's great. As long as, from Jeffrey's standpoint, he's getting the latest and greatest information. The second one, that 4 people actually asked this one. This one's a really big deal for folks. Will the CPUC provide the specific disaster event name?
Okay, I can take this one, Stephanie. for the disaster event name, when we send the notification at that point of time, if we know the disaster event name, yes, we will provide that information through the notification email. That's a heads up email. And that should come from one of our staff or Jeffrey to you guys. So you can use that name, or if you know the name is incorrect, or you think like there is a different name, don't hesitate to reach out to us so that we can correct ourselves, and we'll make sure that we correct for other people, other providers too. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Neil. And the next one, does state of emergency mean as declared by the California governor?
Yes. So state of emergency is declared by the governor of the state, and we have everyone can find that one from the governor's website, and we should follow the instructions, or if any kind of a specific community has been highlighted. So those are the communities or kind of affected communities, like, would be the state of emergency, and that's where the reporting would trigger. And definitely we will also send the heads up email if we kind of like missed sending some any heads up email. Don't hesitate to send this report voluntarily to us, so that we really appreciate if that could happen. Thank you.
What name do you want on the file, and would you like the versions incremented? So I think this question is about file naming convention when it's emailed and attached. Over to you, Jeffrey.
I think we don't need any kind of a version change for any of the files. If it is coming through your email box in a certain date and time, we know that it is recorded with that information for that date it has been reported. But also in the template, as Jeffrey did walk you through, when the date of report would be, that is the first column, if I'm not wrong, like, that column would be the date when you're reporting that given incident. And we can take that information from there for our records. Thank you.
Okay, we have a follow-up question on the state of emergency. Who provides the start and end of the state of emergency? There might be a two-part question there, Neil. So as far as the reporting is concerned, the CPUC will tell you when to start and end on the state of emergency. And Neil, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, for the state of emergency, definitely we also kind of rely on the website from the governor's office, and we see that when it is start or when it is end, and we generally follow that. And also, even if the state of emergency ends and your situation is still not recovered or restored, then you may have to continue sending the report until we ask you to stop. So definitely the directions should come from us. Whatever the website says about the closure of a state of emergency, but still the direction should come from us, and we can together work on that. Thanks.
Okay, great. And Jeffrey, I'm going to ask you to share your screen one more time. There are several questions that are coming up about using the same file for multiple events. Can you please show folks how to do that?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, can I get the question again? Sorry.
There is some concern about using the same file for multiple events because multiple events may start and stop at different times. So can you explain how to indicate the different types of events on one file? I think what you're showing here is wildfire and PSPS. So in this case, is looking at that column, if you can explain how service providers would indicate there's more than one event on the same file, and how will they know when to start and stop their daily reports if the events have different, I guess, time spans. So one starts at a different time and ends at a different time than the other.
Okay. When you realize there are two facilities on the first date, and just you can put the facility and then information required here, and you might know the outage start date and time here. So the information that you know, just put here, and then if you don't know, just put the 2BD here, and then send to us. Then maybe we will know, or in the first date you will have the two facility affected. Then maybe next day, if it doesn't matter if we after we ask you to send the data request for PSPS, maybe it should be the area affected by PSPS could be different area, which is not the same area that you affected by wildfire. Then maybe you can get the information and then put here and send to us. Is it? I'm not sure. This is the.
Let me add, Jeffrey. If I understood correctly, the question is basically if there are two events are happening simultaneously at a given time, and if they have to report both the events, like so I believe the question is if they have to submit with the two different kind of versions of the template, or just in the same template they can provide the information. So what Jeffrey is trying to say here is yes, you can use the same template, and because you're submitting is the same one company who is submitting about the two different incidents at two different places, or maybe at the same place. So those information can be used by this column, I think column C, where you have the disaster event type. You can select that one, and you can apply those rows. So each row is designated for a given facility, right? So that's how we kind of are treating each row. So that facility would be treated for a given event, and then after rest of in a sequence, like you can fill that information. And if it is not known, you can have that one has a TBD on the first day, and maybe in the following days, if you have more information, you can kind of update those informations, like either the current date information as well as some of the previous dates information as well, so that you don't have to rework when you have to submit the final report, because every column, every cell is updated with all the relevant information. Then it is kind of like it is less work for you guys to kind of submit the final report. Hope I answered the question.
You did, Anil. I'm going to ask it another way from the perspective of some of the attendees. So if you have one event that has ended and the CPUC has said, this is your final report on disaster event number 1, but disaster event number 2 is still included and it's still ongoing and it is not final, then do they leave disaster event number 1 day after day after day while disaster event number 2 gets resolved on the same file every day?
Very good question. I think that's a good thought process there. Just to reduce the work on your end, we would appreciate continuing with the same file. We can consider the one event got ended up, and then after we can also use the same file for the second event, because it's the same template. It's just a matter of little bit more work for us on our end, because we also kind of parse the information manually. We don't have any automated tool yet. So, but for your convenience, we can use the same file as your ongoing reporting for the second event, which is not finished yet, or which is still ongoing. I hope this answered the question, the second one.
Thank you. I think this one's been answered as well, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it. Do we update the same line? Are we to change the date to show the date the data was updated? So the date came up a couple of times. So Jeffrey, if you can show how to change the date or where the date is changed on a daily basis and confirm that, yes, you want the same row updated. So is that column A? So where we would, so would they change the date? So yeah, you keep the same row, right? And then you just change the date of the row, and Jeffrey will catch that day after day. Is that right, Jeffrey?
Oh, just a moment. You mean we need to change the date, report the date, for the previous date?
Yeah, so I think what they're asking is if I have 6 facilities impacted and it's impacted for 5 days, am I going to have 30 rows showing day after day after day the differences? And the answer is no. You're going to have
No.
6 rows updated. So each
Yeah,
the file is updated with the
Yeah.
newest and latest and greatest information. And so you would change the date, right, Jeffrey, of the submittal in column A?
yeah. They don't need to change the report date.
Okay.
Yeah, just they update any new information they got recently. They put here, and then remove the 2BD.
Okay. On
Yeah, so that maybe we
the
can
same
know.
row.
Yeah, so that we can know the how many facilities are affected by the per day with this report date.
So to summarize, if you have one facility impacted over 10 days, you do not want 10 rows. You want one row updated.
Yes. Just I need
Yes.
one row. Yeah.
Great. And then the date that's reflected in column A in that scenario where there's 10 reporting days, which date do you want in column A?
So
You want it 10 times, or do you want it the date of the initial submittal?
yeah, but 10 times. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
in order to get
each-
the merge all the data, then every row should have the date.
Okay, and that date in column A for each row should be updated every day that the report is submitted.
Yes.
Okay. I think it's clear now, but please feel free to send us some follow-up questions if you have them. Okay, I have another question. Is the NORS number our company ticket number?
Yeah, it's a NORS number. Basically, whatever the NORS report they have submitted, that's a report number.
Okay, thank you. If we do not have a permanent date, will it be considered an initial report? I think the question is about putting a site back online or back on air. So I think this question is getting at, we understand that you're not going to be submitting a daily report for months and months until something's back on air. So Jeffrey, when there's a temporary solution, can you explain what you want to see in the report then?
Yeah. So for example, there one facility got burned totally, then you put the temporary solution like a cell on the wheel, COW here, then we can consider that way is the temporary service restoration. Then maybe we don't know the permanent service restoration when you are going to put the permanent service restoration there. then in this case, maybe we can say the temporary service installation is okay to close this ticket. That's what I'm thinking. Hey, Anil, what about your opinion?
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think we can have that the way you have just explained. Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, next question. If there are no updates, for example, on day 3, do we still need to submit the report or just an email that there are no updates?
Yeah, if there's no update, which means there's no new site affected, then maybe you can send without any row. But if you have any update that you report to us previously, like this, then maybe, for example, you didn't know this one before. You didn't know this information on the first day, so you put the 2B here, and then maybe you got to know this information on the second day, then you can put the information here and then send to us. And or if you don't have anything update with us, then what do you think about Anil? Maybe they need to send just to the notice we don't have any update, or still they needed to send this template to us.
Yeah, if they don't have any updates, we would appreciate you can send the template if you could, but also communicating over the email promptly would help us to know that there was no updates from the previous day. So that would kind of help us to further build our reports based on your inputs.
Thank you. And I would add that the report will always change in column A because it's the next day's report, even if you don't have updated information. Update the day that you're submitting your report. And as Anil said, in the body of the email, just you can mention for ease of processing that there's really no updates, but that you did submit your report. Okay, we do have many service providers on, but we also have Cal OES. And Anil, the question is, will Cal OES have access to reports?
Good question, from the Cal OES. Definitely we need to interagency. We can work on that one if we have some NDA or some process in place. So, but still, this information comes under the confidential seal from the carriers. So we need to work through on the legal process. So we can take this one offline. Thank you.
Great. There's still a little bit of confusion about column A. So in cases where 2 events are reported on the same spreadsheet, we don't submit the final report for either event until both events are completed. That came up again. And then regarding column A, we don't need to add more rows for the same incident, but either A, we update the date in column A, or B, we only update the dates in the other columns of the spreadsheet. So I think I understand the confusion, and Anil said that we're keeping to one file so that it's easier for the carrier, and I don't think we need to worry too much about it. What is the occurrence of having more than one event at a time? I think each is going to be slightly different. What are your thoughts, Anil?
Yeah, I think keeping and on the same file would always help us to pick the information from one file rather than scrambling through the multiple files. And that could also create the confusion on our end while reporting. So yeah, it's better to stick to the same file. If still you have any kind of questions on that front, how to do it, we can definitely help you to address after this call. You can send an email. We can definitely help you guys.
Yeah, I think the hypotheticals are tough. I think we've done as much as we can with hypotheticals, but if there's a specific incident or a question, then definitely let us know when that occurs. There's a question about identifying specific changes made to the template. I think that I will follow up with that person individually. There was clarifications mostly to the instructions and a few of the column headers, but all of that information is in the template. So if there's a specific reason, we can go through that. Anil, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we kind of covered pretty much everything what in the data request template is needed. We try to explain. One is the process, how it works. The second thing is how the data entries need to happen, what information need to be filled. Pretty much it's a self-intuitive the template part. And that instruction, we made it more clarification with the examples, like we provided compared to the version 1. I think most of you know about this template. You have been using from last almost like 2 years. So that could kind of give more insight from the instruction tab. That's where we are kind of having this webinar and to make you guys more thorough about all these fields.
Yeah, and this is the team that will help you out. So we will help you. A template can only do so much. Events are all unique and there may be more than one, and the service resiliency email is checked by this team. So we are here to help you if something comes up that's very specific. Not a problem at all. Great questions. When will this recording be posted on the CPUC website?
I think just to give 1 week for us, like, probably we have to process the information, and definitely the IT is helping us. Thanks to IT team here who are standing besides us, like, and once we get that information, I think it should not take much time for us to post on the website. And also we can share all the information with you, all of you.
Great. It looks like IT is going to share. Perfect. There's our email address. I have one more question, which looks like perfect timing. So if there's others, please feel free to put them in the chat or reach out to us on this email address, and we will definitely get back to you. The last question I see in the chat is, let's say we have multiple nodes impacted, but in the same general area and related to the same event. Can they be on the same row item?
No.
Okay. So you want each node represented?
Yes, each node need to be represent each line item, because each node would impact multiple customers. So we need that information as well based on that node. So that's where I think every row would kind of have a specific information what we are looking for.
Okay, great. That's excellent timing. I don't see any other questions in the chat. We are definitely going to download a transcript, and if we missed anything, we will certainly get back to you. So Anil, if you'd like to close us off here with a few comments.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie, Jeffrey, everybody in the team, and also IT team. I really appreciate for all the attendees here who joined this webinar, and we would like to work as a partners with you folks on this. And this is really great information which we get from you folks timely, and then after we can further report on this. and this gives us a lot of leverage to work on our policies and other stuff. So I'm really grateful for all this reports which you guys are providing to us, and definitely it's a great support to the community here. And thanks from the communication division team for all your support. Thank you. This said, we can adjourn the call now.
Thank you, everyone. There were a couple questions that came in as you were talking, Anil. We can follow up by email.
Sounds good. Thank you.